You know, we all know who he is. He's, winner of the Eugene Smith Award, 6-time World Press Photo Award winner. Over to you.
I just thought I would take you through my Drowning World project and give you a sense of the different elements and a sense of how it's developed. I've been working on Drowning World for 9 years now, so it's been quite a while. I've made 14 different, what I call Drowning World trips to 12 countries. Have over the years, I suppose, developed the style of doing kind of quite still, staged, relatively constructed portraits of flood victims, ideally in the context of their homes, but sometimes in a more general environment. In different environments, people have different levels of comfort in the water. And when I was working in Brazil, in Rio Branco, in the northwest, people were amazingly comfortable in the water, and people were in their houses cleaning the walls, using the flood water to clean the walls.
Can you tell us about the woman in the Rio Branco in Brazil, the woman with the cigarette? What is she telling us?
Maybe there are multiple meanings you can read into her expression, because there's a sense of kind of resignation. The flood which happened last year was that the river reached its highest level ever recorded. So whereas a lot of the houses in the area are actually built on stilts because it's frequently flooded, the houses on stilts were covered to above roof level. So it was an extreme flood by local floods, by local standards, even though it is frequently flooded. And maybe one could see subtle differences in expression in places where people are kind of more surprised and more shocked by what's happened to their lives, whereas for her there's a sense of familiarity. When I was working in York, I was trying a kind of an experiment. I was trying to see if I could make the portraits on a digital camera as opposed to these old cameras, because these are a real pain to work with. They break down. It's incredibly expensive to work with film. I think my portraits from York were a failure. They didn't work. They just didn't have that kind of connection. And I think it's partly because with this camera, you can see I'm looking down, and I don't have the camera in front of me between me and the subject, so I can look at people's expression very, very carefully and kind of engage. Often people aren't always comfortable, so I need them to, take time, and I'm looking for quite a still moment.
At one level, across all of them, there's the immense stillness, both of the water and of the people, which feels to me like acceptance above anything. Is there a message that actually we're a species that spent its time trying to control nature, industrialize nature, harness her to our whim, and she's bigger than all of us?
Unfortunately, I'm not happy to say, but I'm a bit of a pessimist. Climate events we're seeing is alarming for us now, and what's going to happen in 20 years' time is pretty scary. And even if everything that people sort of promised to do in Paris does happen, I think it's still, even given that, I think it's still going to be a scary, challenging world that we go into. There's something very ancient and biblical, and the metaphor of the flood is very strong, an overwhelming force, and comes and destroys our lives. I think what I've seen has made me kind of ever more committed to trying to make work which does something in the world and kind of acts in the world. I've always, held on to the belief that kind of photographs can do something. I think also for flood victims, at that moment when the water is there, there's nothing they can do. Once the water's gone and you're left with piles of stinking mud, that's when the horror starts. That there's something which I'm very drawn to. I mean, maybe almost addicted to. Maybe people are in a kind of slightly strange, out of the normal existence state. So that's the moment of my engagement. I like to make work which I think is beautiful, which is powerful, which can work on many different levels, in many different ways, in many different environments.